The question I get asked the most when it comes to learning languages is this. The question that I get asked the most when it comes to learning languages is how to create a study schedule or study plan. So we're going to walk through the exact steps that you need to take right now, today, in this moment, to create that plan and actually start studying the language or languages that you are trying to learn. Let's go. This is for the people who have seen other people online share their study schedules and are like, wow, they're making such great progress. I want to do that. I want to make that exact same progress. And they try to do the thing and it does not work. It does not work as intended. It does not work as planned. You don't get the same results. You're frustrated. You're overwhelmed. All of those things and more. Sometimes it's just because life happens and we don't have the habits built in to help support these changes that we're making in our lives. Sometimes it's because we lose motivation to do those things. We weren't really sure on our why. I call these your guiding principles. And because of that lack of motivation and because you were relying entirely on motivation, study schedule, study plan did not work for you. I have got you. If this is the first time you're ever meeting me, hello, my name is Bront'e. I'm a language coach. I help language learners go from feeling that frustrated, overwhelmed, and burnt out to feeling so confident and building that sustainable routine for your language studies. Whether you're learning one language, multiple languages, I am that go-to person to help you with those things. I'm a super nerd and an introvert. And so my perspective is coming from those two different areas as well. So let's not waste any more time and get started. So first off, when I work with my own language studies and with my students and the clients that I work with, I create both a schedule and a routine for my language studies. Now, what's the difference? Well, a schedule is telling you when to do something and how long to do it. And the routine or the plan is telling you what to do and how to do it. So here's an example that I tend to give. You might decide in your language studies to set aside your Tuesdays and Thursdays for your language studies for about an hour. That is your schedule. Your routine is sitting down to work on a textbook or to get some flashcards done or to chat with a friend, whatever it is that you are doing to study, review, or practice the language or languages that you're learning would be your routine or your plan. Now let's put this all together and actually create that thing so that you can start learning languages or continue to learn the languages that you're learning. Well, let's go. But wait, because I know that when I say create a schedule, there are going to be people who are hearing this and are like, Bront'e, but I don't like schedules. Schedules are so stifling. They don't really help me. Every time I create a schedule, it feels too strict for me and they never really work for me. That's because the schedule you created does not work for you and you need to create something different. If you don't like setting a specific time for your language studies and that does not work for you, don't set a specific time for your language studies. If you don't like to set your schedule on certain days, don't do that. Some schedules might look like saying you need to do this thing 3 times a week and you need to fit it in your schedule wherever it is. Sometimes it might be you need to complete this action a certain number of times or for a certain amount of time in total throughout the week, 3 hours in total, and you piece that in throughout your week. Your schedule should work for you, not the other way around. So if something in your schedule or your plan or your routine is not working, it's not you, it's your system, and you got to fix it. Okay, so when it comes to creating a study plan for yourself, the very first thing you need is a focused language. I call this your focus language. And the reason why I'm starting here is because some people who are starting a language have tons of languages that they want to learn, but are the people who are going on Google and are like, what language should I learn first? This is the first step. You need to choose a language that you are actually passionate about, that you really want to learn, that you have a connection to. And yes, it can be as simple as this language is interesting and cool. And as you continue to learn, you might develop and discover some interesting cultural information, maybe some different things that you'd like to do using the language. And that will help to develop your why, your guiding principle even further. But you have to have a reason for learning the language, and it has to be your reason. Think about it this way. How many of us have been pushed to learn a language in school, hated the experience, struggled with learning the language, came out of it thinking that we were going to be fluent, and still can't speak it to this day? I'm looking at you. Yeah, you, because I was there. So have that focused language. Then the next thing you want to have is your tiny goals. So I talk about tiny goals a lot. There are definitely language learners and people here on the internet who talk about goals and either love them or hate them. I think of goals as your milestone. So these are the things that are telling you what direction you're going on or going in your language studies. And you can either continue on that path, or that can be the signal that says, hey, I'm not doing the thing that I thought I was supposed to be doing, so I think I need to go this way instead. Yeah. For example, the focus language might be, let's say, French or Spanish or Japanese, whatever the language is that you've chosen. And then your tiny goal could be something like this. I want to be able to speak about things I've done in the past. Do you see how specific and tiny that is? That's something that you could do in a couple weeks. You could learn it in a couple days, and you could master it in a couple. Tiny goals are really great because they give you these quick wins. So if you set a really big goal and your only focus is that big goal, it's going to take you a while to get there, and you probably will get discouraged because of how long it takes you to get there. But if you set a tiny goal and you're like, I just want to focus on this one small area of my big goal, then you reach that and you're like, man, this is great. I'm doing the thing. And then you set another tiny goal and another tiny goal. And again, these are milestones. These are things telling you you're going in the right direction. So if you don't like that goal, you can change it. You get to decide what these milestones look like, and no one else can make that decision for you. The next thing is an achievable purpose. So what are you ultimately trying to do? How do you see yourself using the language that you're trying to learn? These are the habits that you're trying to build. So goals are important, but you could learn a language and never set a goal. But you cannot learn a language without habit. And so you want to ask yourself questions like, when I think about a language learner who's at an advanced stage of the language I'm trying to learn, what are the things that they regularly do? And then those are the habits that you probably should think about adopting. Or you can ask yourself, if I were at my end goal for this language, how would I be using this language? What are the kinds of things I would be doing? Because those are the kinds of things you should be doing now. So for example, if you are someone who wants to speak the language, then you need to immediately start seeking out and finding opportunities to talk. Now, as a beginner, this might feel really, really intimidating. And so you can supplement this with some self-conversations, with shadowing, with recording yourself and listening to it. But the goal is you are regularly doing this thing that you want to get better at. And then as you improve, when you get into intermediate and advanced stages, it's going to look a little different than it does right now, but you're still having conversations. You're still practicing your talking, your speaking skill. You're still practicing your speaking skill in some way. And maybe at that stage, you're actually incorporating it and using it with other people. Next, you want to think about your equipment. So what are the resources you're going to use? What are the tools you're going to use? And what are the strategies you're going to apply to these things? The resources are the things that are teaching you the language. The tools are the things that are helping you to acquire the information, write down the information, remember it. So your dictionaries, your notebooks, your flashcard apps and websites, things like that. Your resources are the textbooks, the classes, the websites, the apps, all those things that are actually teaching you the language. And then you need that strategy, that task. So what is the specific thing that you want to do? What kind of work are you going to be doing using that resource? So are you just reading through the textbook? Are you doing the exercises? If you're doing something more self-study and actually creating the curriculum for yourself, well, are you shadowing? Are you doing some laddering? Are you recording yourself and then self-correcting? Are you journaling? Are you sentence mining or building sentences on your own? Like, what strategy are you actively using with this resource? So for example, I will spend 10 to 15 or 15 to 30 minutes sentence mining, which means that you are listening to content, reading things, and you're pulling out sentences that you want to remember that are using words and phrases and grammar that you want to master. And maybe you're putting it in a flashcard deck, maybe not. Maybe you're like me and you don't like flashcards, and that is perfectly fine. And you're taking those sentences and what? You're taking those sentences and then what next? Maybe you're using those sentences as a base or foundation to create your own sentences, and you're substituting words with other words. Maybe you're adjusting it or rephrasing it in your own words so you can get comfortable with it. Maybe you're repeating it over and over again so you can get used to and comfortable with saying those things out loud. There's so many different things that you can do when you start with, for example, sentence mining, but you need to know the specific strategy that you want to use and how you want to use it. Now, here are some mistakes that I want to make sure that you avoid that I'm really going to lay out here, clear and simple. The first thing that people tend to do when they're creating a study schedule in a study plan That is a mistake. You don't clarify anything first. So the stages of consistent language learning are clarifying, planning, launching, and refining. This is the cycle that I teach everyone that I work with. And if you don't start with clarity first, if you don't get clear on things like your strengths as a language learner, the reasons why you're learning in the first place, your big picture vision, so many other pieces, if you don't get clear on that first, the plan you create is going to fail in the worst of ways. Now, failure is not something scary that we should be afraid of, but if there are things that you can prevent, we want to try to prevent them. And one of the things that clarity helps you to do is it helps you align your plan to your needs. So your current life circumstances, your current experiences, what you actually want to achieve, what works well for you, what doesn't work well for you. And if you don't know all those things, creating a plan is not the best step to go to directly. You should start with clarity first. The second mistake that I see a lot of language learners making is choosing resources that don't actually align with their goals, with their vision, or with the strategy that they're trying to use. So for example, people who are like, I want to improve with my speaking. I want to get better at speaking. And then they choose a textbook and they're doing reading and writing. That's not helping you to improve your speaking. It's helping you with your grammar and vocabulary. But the skills that you need to develop for speaking, which is recall and recognition in conversation and also working on your pronunciation, for example, the textbook's not helping you with that direct. You can use a textbook to help you with all the other pieces that are really important for speaking. But at some point, you have to open your mouth and speak, whether it's to your camera or to another person. On the other hand, if you are someone who wants to read content and write content, but you are in a conversation class, that is not going to help you to read material and understand it and write material and understand it. So make sure that the resources that you're using match the strategies that you're applying, which also match the overall goal that you're trying to achieve in your language studies. And then another big mistake that I see a lot of language learners making is people who are very excited to jump into their language studies. These are usually the curious ones. And if hearing the curious ones is not familiar to you at all, these are the 4 different archetypes of language learners, which I will talk about in another video. But usually people who are that archetype jump into their language studies headfirst because they're super motivated and excited to get into it. But they don't set up a form of accountability. So they have no way of sticking to the plan other than through their motivation. And so what this means is when you're not motivated, you're not studying. And then when you are motivated, you might be binge studying, which will lead to a burnout. And either of those options is not a great option. You want a sustainable path for your language studies because this isn't learn in 30 days and then never study again because you are now fluent. This is a lifelong journey. And so you want to pace yourself. And when it comes to building habits, especially, you want to start small so that it's something that you can do without too much pressure when life gets in the way, when all of these other things come in your path and challenge your ability to stick to it, just challenge your discipline. And then you build onto that habit and make it stronger and maybe develop it further, maybe add some new thing as needed as you'd like to, versus jumping in, studying for 6+ hours every single day, deciding you need a break because you're burned out and you're exhausted, and then forgetting everything, having to relearn all the things, and you're just cycling through this all over again. So here's what I want you to do right now. I'm going to go back through this video again and map out those 5 things. So your focus language, what is the language or languages that you're planning to learn? 2, what are your tiny goals? The specific things that are tangible that you can track, that you can easily see. Did you do it or not do it? Can you do this or not do it? Your tiny goal. Your achievable purpose. So what is the habit that you're going to develop? Your equipment. So what resources are you going to use and what tools are you going to use? And then finally, the task. What is the specific action you're going to take? What are the strategies you're going to use for your language studies? Do these 5 things and then let me know in the comments what your plan is going to look like. What are your 5 pieces for your study schedule? And if you have questions, let me know, because I can follow up with more information and resources to help you along your way. I hope you found this helpful. And if you are someone who feels like, I don't think I'm ready to create my schedule yet, because you said start with clarity, so I need to start with clarity, I've got you. You can actually check out the video that is posted here or also on my channel, all about clarity and how to get that clarity in your language studies. And I'll see you next time. Bye.